Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of GLACO and Lawrence Technological University, my name is Paul Silver. I am the president of GLACO, but also from Dassault Systems, the Global Automotive Program Manager. I welcome you to our summer abbreviated GLACO meeting. For those who may be visiting the first time, raise your hand if this is your first meeting. Phenomenal, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have an abbreviated summer schedule and a very big day for you. I just wanted to give you a very brief overview so you can plan accordingly. It's a triple play today. We have our GLACO meeting, summer abbreviated schedule, followed by our Dassault Systems Designer Cafe, first time ever, so you'll be a great part of that. And then following that will be our summer main event. For those of you who have been to the main event when it's with the North American International Auto Show, directed by Keith Nagara, it is a phenomenal event. It's the who's the industry getting together and sharing the latest insights of what's happening in the industry and the latest developments. Summer, again, will be more of a light schedule, a light agenda. It will be a little later this evening following the Designer Cafe. Our agenda for the day includes a brief introduction. I'm going to skip my usual industry trends, challenges, and solutions presentation just to give more time to some of our great guest speakers. Thanks to Bob Hello and his team from Dassault Systems, we're able to reconstruct our schedule. Tata Technologies has a series of commitments this week, some of them out of the country, although they are the sponsor for today and have sent a featured speaker just after the break. They could not make their presentations this morning in the GLACO agenda, so we're very grateful to Dassault Systems and Bob's team for being here today. After Keith Nagara, our host here from Lawrence Technological University, has a few words, we'll be introducing Tony Romero, talking about one of the topics that you requested at the last several meetings, multi-version compatibility between CATIA version 5 and CATIA version 6. We've seen a lot of momentum in the marketplace on version 6, but many of you have to maintain both environments. Tony will give you several insights there. Also, a gentleman who saved the day last time, Paul Laberty, who came in and gave a great presentation in April, is now going to follow that up. You asked for an encore, and you're going to get it. He's going to be presenting CATIA Digitized Shape Editor, QSR, and RSO. He'll explain what those acronyms mean in just a few moments. And then we have a special guest here from LTU, part of the LTU Designer Alumni. Thanks to Keith Nagara in bringing him forward and for doing such a great job in being a mentor to this designer. You may have seen his work already on the walls here at LTU and at Ford. He has the latest innovation for 2065 called the Ford Sidewinder. Not going to steal any of his thunder, but he'll give you a multimedia presentation of that. After our morning break, it'll be our pleasure to introduce Tata, who is sponsoring GLACO, but also sending a featured speaker from their product development division. Kevin Power has been one of the key players in their development of excuse me, a prototype vehicle, a fully electric vehicle that they use the 3DS Dassault Systems platform to produce. We'll hear more about that. And then getting into the Designer Cafe schedule, at the top of the hour, every hour for the balance of the day, we'll welcome a great OEM speaker. Thanks to Keith Nagara for putting together a phenomenal schedule this afternoon. We'll be welcoming Mr. Gilardi from the Ford Mustang Group. We'll also welcome Phil Beauchard, who will be your host this afternoon for the Designer Cafe from Dassault Systems. We'll also, thanks to Keith, welcome from Chrysler, the SRT Viper team. It looks like several people there. And then at the end of the afternoon, we'll, by special request, many of you asked us, getting into the future of car development, making them lighter, faster, and higher performance, generally requires high performance, advanced material composites. And we'll be welcoming from Dassault Systems a specialist, Rainey Richardson, who is in the national event circuit, and we're very grateful to have her here today to talk about body in black innovations. And then followed by that will be a phenomenal event. We'll talk a little bit more later as we get further on into the afternoon. For those of you who can only be with us this morning, we wanted to kind of advance our schedule here. We also wanted to give you a very brief reminder on behalf of Jackie Murphy, the North American Program Manager. For those of you who have never explored search-based applications or have heard of Exelead, which is the engine behind the online Yellow Pages and the Google of Europe, Exelead is also part of the Dassault Systems family. You're invited to attend a free seminar at the Birmingham Athletic Club. You need not be a member. You can put this on your schedule for coming up in just a few weeks, June 28th. I promised Jackie that we'd put in a good word here. And all of the Dassault Systems emails are very easy to remember as long as you know the first name and the last name. paul.silver@3ds.com, and you can contact Jacqueline Murphy at 3ds.com for more details on the seminar. So without further ado, let me introduce our host here at LTU, Mr. Keith Nagara, who is the Director of Transportation and Industrial Design, to say a few words. Keith. Let's welcome Keith. You're on video, man, so you've got to wear one of those. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Paul. I think he's a little too kind sometimes with his comments. But anyways, welcome again, and hopefully all of you have received a program for this morning and this afternoon, and hopefully most of you can join us later on with a lot of the other presenters. Just, I guess, some comments in regards to some of the things that we're doing here with the university and the program in the context of some of the softwares that we're currently using and developing with industry as well as students. So we're very happy to host and continue to host GLACO, as well as the main event for the summer program here at LTU. I guess moving forward, we're really excited to be working with Dassault in terms of migrating into CATIA v6 and also becoming some of the power users. I'm currently getting emails from around the country from other universities in terms of how we're moving forward in terms of launching CATIA v6. And even a lot of the companies that are currently looking for employees, they're looking for users that know CATIA and that can use it. So we're really excited to have this partnership with Dassault Systems and with all of you. So with that, I just want to hand it off back to Paul, and thank you again, and look forward to talking with many of you later on.
All right, continuing with our agenda, it's my great pleasure to welcome Tony Romero, formerly of IBM PLM, now with Dassault Systems, to talk about compatibility between CATIA version 5 and CATIA version 6. There we go, sir.
Is mine open?
Yeah.
Good morning. Before I get started and we look at all of that, I wanted to ask a wake-up question. Who in the room has had to deal with upgrading from the old version of Microsoft Office, the one that we all knew and liked and understood where all the icons were and knew how to do all the commands and the macros and what have you, to the brand new, improved Microsoft Office with the ribbon bar and the, okay. So it was pretty bad, right? I mean, the moment you had to go do that, and if you haven't, you know, this is what you got to look forward to. You get the new Microsoft Office, and all the commands you knew, they're gone. You got this ribbon thing at the top. Simple commands, they're just not there anymore. You're going, you know, I'm nowhere near as productive as I used to be with the old Microsoft Office. And the fact is that any time we have to deal with an upgrade, we always kind of go like, oh man, you know, this is going to be work. I'm going to have all this stuff that I knew, and then it's going to be all thrown away, and I'm going to have to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. And it's really not just only true of working with Microsoft. It's true with working with kind of any software, right? And if you think about it, you know, I kind of put my top 3 things that I really don't like about upgrades. The first thing about upgrades is I'm going to lose a bunch of stuff, right? The menus are going to be different, so I'm going to have to spend a bunch of time, weeks, months, however, learning the new interface, learning the new icon. Sure, there's some new features, but, you know, R&D loves to just move things around, and okay, well, so I'm going to have to spend time learning how to do stuff. Second, I know that there's going to be a bunch of things that I created in the old version that are just not going to upgrade, right? There's stuff that you're just going to lose. I created some kind of a special image or some sort of a special transition in PowerPoint, and when I bring it to the new version, it just doesn't work. So that's the second thing I don't like. And the third thing is that if I wanted to take something from the newer version of Microsoft to the older version of Microsoft, I'm going to lose things, right? Because the new features are not supported in the old version. So that's true for Microsoft, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, or whatever. And guess what? Up to now, it's also been true of CATIA, right? When you go from one version to the other, there's new functions to learn, there's stuff that doesn't work, there's things that don't go through. So what I'm here to present today is that, hey, things are changing, and things aren't as bad as that when we go from one version to the next. And I'll kind of highlight the differences that exist today between going from a version 5, say at R19 to an R20, and what you can expect there. What happens when I go from R20 to R19? But most importantly, what happens when I go from a V5 to V6 and from V6 to V5? So that those three things that I really don't like, that I know happen anytime I have an upgrade, that those things don't really affect me. Okay, so now that I sort of set the stage for it, what I'm here to talk about is what we call feature-level collaboration with CATIA V5. So we're looking at people that currently are perhaps using CATIA V6 on your left and want to bring things downwards so that they can be used in CATIA V5. It's pretty straightforward. So the first thing to state is that we have a plan. And the plan has always been to make sure that, that the investment that, that we have and that all of you have made into CATIA V5 is maintained. And that means that when you go from V5 to V6, you're really still using the same geometric and features modeler. That means that the menu picks that you're used to, the features that you're used to using in V5, all still exist in V6. So that's a good thing. So where are the improvements, right? So here's sort of a very high-level summary of where the changes exist between V5 and V6 today. Your geometric modeler, no update. The same way you created a part in V5, you do the exact same thing in V6 today. Nothing has changed there. Features, specific features that you do to it, whether you're putting a fillet or you're putting a hole, whatever it is that you're doing, no updates. The procedure and the process that you use is still the same. Now here's where the changes take place. Product structure. In V5, we had a whole bunch of documents in the product structure created. We had CAT parts and CAT products and CAT shapes and CAT analysis and CAT drawings and CAT everything. And the biggest problem we probably had with V5 is the fact that keeping track of all those files cost heartache. You had broken links. If you didn't bring everything with it, you would have problems. You'd have to go find parts that were lost. And so with V6, we don't deal with documents anymore. We made them objects and we stored them all into a database. So you can't lose them. So better management of product data. All of the components that make up your assembly are all stored in one place, and we can keep track of that for you. The next piece that anybody who's used CATIA V5 for any length of time knows about is broken links. Link infrastructure. There were all kinds of different ways to create links in V5, and those same formats still exist. But now those relationships is in a robust link model that we store inside of the database. So now we don't have to run cat DUA to clean up broken links, because now all of this information is stored inside of the V6 database. So from this chart, you can take away that V5 and V6 are very similar, and that there are two core areas here where we've made some big improvements. I have too light of a touch. So how do we make this transition easier for you? How do we make the transition easier for the people that are going to begin using V6? The first thing is, as you can see on the right-hand side, you can see V5 and V6, and you really can't tell the difference between them. Standard CATIA V5 toolbar, same process coverage, and in fact, same workbenches as you have in V5. We say 1 or 2 days of ramp up is enough for the user to take advantage of V6. And in fact, if you are, if you're a regular CATIA V5 user, you'll be able to right away start modeling, creating parts, working your way around the interface. The only problem you're going to have is that once you've created something, you're going to kind of figure out, well, how do I save it? And that's where the big difference is. The save command has changed. But other than that, you're able to very easily go through the menus and work inside of CATIA. So now the question is well, so why did we do this? Why did we make it so similar? And what are we doing to really make it easier for you to go from V5 to V6? The first piece is we want to make sure that as people migrate to V6, that they can continue to use their V5, leverage their V5 investment, right? So in order to do that, we have to make sure that we're able to exchange information back and forth between the two. Not like we do from V5, so from a version of V5, for example, R20 to R19 or R21 to R20 when you go backwards, but that we enhance it beyond that we're able to do more collaboration with that. So we want to make sure that you can continue to leverage your V5 investment. We want to make sure that you can migrate from V6 to V5 in stages, right? I don't think that there's an expectation, again, given the changes in infrastructure that are required, that you would have to just switch everything overnight. You can actually, in fact, as I will demonstrate later on, have some workstations using V6, some workstations using V5, and in fact have the ability to send data back and forth between them, edit back and forth between them without any problems, and without losing any data. So upwards and downwards compatibility being supported at a feature level. And so, as the bottom bullet shows, taking advantage of both systems at the same time. So, there are different levels of collaboration. There are different ways that we can collaborate today. 4 different ways. So there's visualization with the European spelling. Nope. There's visualization, and so that usually means being able to exchange information between you and somebody else using a tessellated format, for example, CGR or some other format, right? We can do geometric exchange. I can send you a step file. I can send you an IGES file. I could send you my same CATIA V5 file, and we could do some iterations back and forth. I can design in context. I can take my file and then bring in some surrounding data and put it in context and make sure that the part that I'm designing fits in the proper context of the assembly. And more importantly, I need to be able to do co-design. I need to be able to set up an environment where I'm doing some design work, or I begin some design work, and then I pass it on to you, and you do some design work, and then you pass it back to me. And the fact is that probably for most of us who work at companies that have design centers here in Europe and in Asia, this is something that you have to do, and you have to do every day. You have to be able to take work, move it around, and not always am I going to have the same version of software, V5, V6, or combinations thereof at all of my locations. And I need to be able to send things around and continue to do co-design level of collaboration. So here's a nice picture that shows how we can do it today, right? If I have an OEM and a supplier that are using V5, which is what we do today, we can go back and forth, and you can see the green arrows, both of them, go back and forth, no problems there. If I have an OEM and a supplier that are both using V6, no problem. They can both go back and forth and exchange data, just like the V5 OEM suppliers did. What you'll notice now is that when I go from V5 to V6, the arrow only goes in one way in this picture. And that means that today, what you can do is you can take any of your V5 objects that were created in CATIA V5, and that V6 will be able to, through the FBDI process file-based design input process, you'll be able to read all of the information that you had in V5, all of that intellectual capital that was in there, all of the features, and all of that will be read into V6. So that's great as long as all we're doing is going in that direction. And the problem, obviously, that that's not always the case, right? Sometimes we need to iterate and we need to go back and forth. So if I look at the next approach, I want to take it one step further and say, what happens if right here, let me go ahead and run through that. What happens if I want to send what's in V6 back to my OEM in V5? What happens then, right? Am I going to get everything that I put in V6? All of the features that I added, all of the intelligence that I added as part of the design process, am I going to be able to send all of that back to the person that's only using V5? Whether it's a supplier to the OEM or the OEM to the supplier, either way, I'm going to be constrained with what I have today in V5. Because all I'm able to do is I'm able to send from V6 a CATIA V5 file. I'm able to export a CATIA V5 file. But the V5 file doesn't have any of the intelligence, any of the history, any of the specifications that were created in V6. So I'm able to send the information back and forth, but I'm somewhat limited to visualization, geometric, and design and context. Because the history, the specifications that were created in V6 don't go back up to V5. So how do we change that? We change that by introducing what we call V5-6 R2012. This new version of CATIA, this new version of CATIA V5 that supports the ability to take geometry that was created in V6 with the specifications, with all the features, with all the history, and take that to my OEM or supplier that's using V5. We do that by introducing the next version of V5, right? R22, or V5-6R2012, the new name. That allows me to do that. So sort of the thing that I started off with, well, what happens when I do an upgrade and what am I not able to do? We sort of made that go away, right? We now can go back and forth. I mean, the arrows are pretty clear, two green arrows going back and forth between a V6 environment and a V5 environment. So the question is, well, okay, sounds good, but we've always seen PowerPoints and we've seen videos, and does it really work that well? So I have a video. And in fact, Paul or even Gary could set up a system and show you how well this really works. So I'm going to show you the video, and I'll sort of walk you through it to sort of explain what's really going on, okay? So,
in the following demonstration, I'd like to show you two things.
How do I...
First, a recap of the compatibility between version 6 and V5.
Paul, where's the volume?
Ready?
Oops. Oh, here we go. Now I want to go back to my video.
Okay.
There's a voiceover to the video. It's a British guy. I don't really like him. So let's start off. What I have here is an environment where we basically have one division to another division, OEM, supplier, whatever your particular environment happens to be, where we're going to start off in V6, and we're going to use what we do today. And today, what can we do today, right now, with the code that's out, V6R12X with 13 would say R21 or R20 or R19 or even R18. What can I do today in this environment, okay? So we'll start off in V6. We'll create a part, and we're going to send it to V5. So I make sure that my video is running. That's what happens when you change laptops and you're not really sure. Okay, so while the video queues itself up, like I said, the idea will be to show you first how I go from V6, create the part in V6, and then take it to V5. So sort of watch what happens. It should all be somewhat familiar for anybody who's using V5. And you'll see that the commands in V6 are, again, very similar, if not the same as what you did in V5. And then what we'll do is the second portion to it is I'll go ahead and take something in V5, move it into V6. And then once it's in V6, I'm going to go ahead and take it down with a full specification and history back to V5. So in this case, I bring it up. This is different in V6 than in V5. I have my turntables. I'm able to identify the parts that I want to work on. And all I'm doing is I'm going to add an additional bracket on the engine mount. I'm going to add an additional bracket. So I go ahead and open up the part. And you can see right here, there it is. This is the bracket that we're going to build in V6. Okay, so there's the sketch outline. And again, you know, we define the pad. I mean, you see over here on the right-hand side, the menu picks. Those should all be familiar to V5 users. And again, very simply, go ahead and create the geometry, right? We define the shell, go through, and you can see that the menu picks across the top, the menus across the top, the menus across the side, they're all pretty much the same. The only way you can tell that this is V6 really is at the bottom. There's a whole new set of icons down here and a new compass in the middle. I export to CATIA V5, and you can see here that it tells you it's exporting it as result. As result really means that you're going to get a single body for that solid. You're not going to get any of the features. It's the same result that you would get if you were going from, again, R20 to R19. This is CATIA V5. You can see up here, CATIA V5. You can see it's a solid, right? No history. I don't have any access to the features that were created. But what I can do, again, the way I can today in V5 is I can go ahead and add any features to it. I can't edit the features that were created in V6, but I can add features to it. So in this case, I'm adding some fillets. I'm really building in the bracket into the structure. I'm trimming it out, and I've really basically updated the part. I've added some additional features to it. I've added some manufacturing features to it. I'm happy with the way the part now looks. And I can go ahead and after I add a fillet between the original part and the new piece I've added right there, I'm going to go ahead and now send it back to V6. So it comes back into V6. I have the old one. I have the new one. And what do? I say, hey, replace the old one with the new one. And here we are. It's all built in, right? And it's really that simple. You go from one to the other. There's nothing that has to happen in the background in order to enable this. So that was a pretty straightforward process. That's what we've supported since the beginning of V6, that ability to go back and forth in V5. Now what we know and what we've been told and what customers have asked for is a higher level of collaboration. Like I said, co-design. So how do I do co-design? In this case, I have a pulley right here. It's got some knowledgeware. It's got a pattern. There's a pattern defined right here. There's some knowledgeware defined on, on this boss over here. You can see over here that all of the features that are supported. And what I'm going to do is, you can see here, right? There's a pattern. It shows three holes, 3 slots in the pulley. I'm going to go ahead again, export it out, but I'm exporting it to CATIA V5 using as specifications. In other words, bring the history with it. Make it fully editable in CATIA V5. Back again to CATIA V5, you can see that the pulley, that the entire assembly came through. And as you begin to edit it, you can see right here that the features are all visible and available, right? They're not low lit. And you can see again the pattern definition. I can go ahead and change it to 4, and the pattern automatically updates. So that means that the pattern feature will show up. It also means that knowledgeware that you've defined in V6 comes into V5. So there's a lot of information that was created in V6 that can also be migrated back into the V5 environment. In this case, you make it too big. There's a rule. The OEM doesn't allow it to be that big, so you have to see the check right there. It says, OK, adjust it to an appropriate value. It's green. Knowledgeware has been validated. It works. I can go ahead and save it now and send it back to v6. In addition to that, what we've done in v5 is we've added functionality that only existed in v6, the silhouette function. The silhouette function is something that was introduced in v6 and now also exists in v5 because of the changes that have occurred in R22. And then when I bring it back, as you can see, I bring it back. Here's the v6 feature that was created in v5. They can both coexist in the v6 environment. The way that we were able to do this, again, is the reason that this exists is because the newest version of v5, which is v5-6R2012, or R22, okay, is that R22 has inside of it a small piece of the v6 modeling engine. And that is what allows v5 to be able to read information and the history and the specifications that are created in v6 in v5. That is also what allows v5 to create silhouette. There was a functionality that was introduced in v6, but is now possible also in v5. Which means we continue to enhance v5, we continue to add additional functionality, additional workbenches, and we're leveraging the v6 engine in both. So, go to the next chart. Oh, come on. There we go. So the first part of what I showed you was I started out in v6. I started out with a design in CATIA v6. I sent it over to v5 using the as result, right? So it's a solid, but I can still make geometry changes. I can still add features to it. I can add manufacturing features to it. I can save those changes in v5, and then I can send them back into v6. And in the assembly, say, replace the old one with the new one, and it shows up inside of v6. So we're able to go back and forth. There's no co-design, but I'm able to share in context. I'm able to visualize it. I'm able to make changes to the geometry. The level of functionality that exists between v6 and v5 is the same as exists between a higher version of v5 and a lower version of v5. That's what we had before. What we have now is my ability to, again, create in v6, make changes in v5, make changes to the actual features, take advantage of the knowledgeware, and then send it back into v6 and have all of that still be there. So I really can go, and although we start in v6, you could start in v5 and send it to v6, and right? It goes either way. There's no limitation as to what I can do. So what we're able to do is we're doing feature-level co-design. So what does that mean for v5? And what does that mean to what I'm doing in v5 today, and what can I do, right? First, v5 and v6 are synchronized now, right? Prior to v5R12X is the current version. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we introduced v6R 2013. But it's true with 13 and 12X. And this is the new name, v5-6R 2012 R22, are synchronized. We changed the name from R22 to this one to highlight the fact that inside of v5, there's a component of the v6 modeling engine. So that's why the name changed. We have enhanced downward compatibility between the synchronized versions of v6 and v5. So R22 and 12 and 13 are synced. I'm able to go back and forth between the two of them. When the next version of v5 comes out, it will also be synchronized with the version of v6. CATIA v5 continues to evolve, right? There continues to be additional functionality built into v5. So if you look at the whole program directory for V5, for the R22 version, you're going to see there's a whole bunch of new functionality introduced, of which Silhouette, which came out in V6, is a part of. CATIA V5 continues to be supported until at least, and that doesn't mean that that's the end, but at least 2020. So V5 still has a long life behind it. So just to sort of highlight what we've had today, what we have today. Today you can go from R19 to R20, from 20 to 21. As long as you're going up, you get a complete update, right? Everything should come through. If I'm running any version of CATIA V5, and again, this was a question someone asked me, if I'm running R18 today because my OEM is making me, do I need to go to 19 or 20 or 21 before I go to V6? Absolutely not. You can go from any version of R18, of V5, and go directly into V6. So there's no intermediate path required. And obviously, if I'm running any version of V6 today, and the next one, that's complete, everything is supported. What happens if I want to go the other way? If I'm in 21 and I want to go to 20, we use this as result, which means you get the solid, but you don't get the history. If you go from V6, for example, 2012, and you want to go to V5, say 21 or 19 for a few more days before it's out of support, you also get the as result, right? And you'll be able to apply the standard set of V5 processes that are still supported when you use as result. The enhancement, again, is if I'm running R22 with 12x or 13, I can do either one. I can send the as result so that I get the solid, or I can use the full spec to go back and forth. From version 6, it works in the part design workbench, generative shape, functional modeling, all of those, and there's a nice set of documents that highlight all of the different areas in V6 that are supported that will also work inside of R22 and the components, the V6 components that have been added to the V5. So this allows us really to do what? Progressive transition to V6. You don't have to turn off the lights and come back, turn on the lights, and everything has to be changed. You can, in fact, coexist V6 and V5 environment, whether it's you working with somebody else in another department, in another program within your own company, from one R&D center to another, or from one design center to another design center, or whether it's you, OEM supplier, or OEM to OEM exchange, you both don't have to be running the same version of code at this time. In fact, what we can do is you can, from a V6 environment, create mixed content so that you can go ahead and mix in your V6 environment, V4, V5, V6, and even SolidWorks data, as long as you're working within a V6 assembly. So to sort of sum it up, CATIA V6 is ready, and that really means what? It means that everything you could do in CATIA V5, you can do in V6. So we have equivalent process coverage to V5. In addition to that, right, and the reason why you would want to go to V6 is we have a whole bunch of additional functionality that exists in V6 that you can take advantage of. Live design, live product, collaboration, dashboarding capabilities, systems engineering, online mobility, all of that is part of the V6 package. You can take advantage of it today and still leverage your V5 investment. Live collaboration. If you start some V6 and you have some existing V5, you can go back and forth. You have the ability to leverage what is existed all along, moving things as result, or full specification and full history allows information to go back and forth between the two. And finally, from a V5 standpoint, just so that there's no confusion, no doubt in our commitment to V5, we continue to enhance V5. We put a V6 component into V5. We will support it through at least 2020. There will be regular updates, and where appropriate or applicable, we're taking functionality that was developed for V6, like Silhouette and incorporating it into v5. Thank you. Any questions? No questions, really? Yes.
The silhouette feature, why would I want to use that silhouette feature?
You know, it's a function that it's been asked for in v5, and I think we've had business partners that have developed algorithms to go do that. It's native into v6, and so it just gives you the ability to project exactly what you have in the part and project that onto a plane, and that's what silhouette does. So there were specific applications. I don't know, Gary, if you can add as to if there was a specific use case or specific scenario that people were thinking about that. But that's, again, that was just an example of something that was easy to use, easy to show. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then, again, that was just one. There's a whole bunch of, you know, Anyway, if anybody has any questions after or want to contact, obviously you can contact us through Paul. From a CATIA standpoint, this is pretty exciting. Our ability to go back and forth. I get a lot of questions, a lot of people that are trying to do stuff like this. So again, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or point you to somebody who can give you some answers. Yes?
The 5-6 version, is that going to maintain the same licensing techniques, same schema?
Yeah, good question. So without getting into the weeds, but obviously you understand what's implied. V5R6, V6 uses the DSLS, right? And V5 used LUM from IBM. Beginning with R21 or 20, CATIA V5 could support both LUM and DSLS. V5R22, V5R22 also supports LUM and DSLS, so you have the ability to toggle. I can tell you right now that LUM goes out of support by IBM sometime this year, and so or, you know, within the next year. I don't know if it's this year or maybe the beginning of next year, but it goes out of support. So we have in place that the next version of V5 will only support DSLS. From an end user standpoint, from a maintenance standpoint, nothing changes. You just use the new license server. Everything works the same way. It's still concurrent. You know, you don't have, that's what you're looking for, okay? Okay, thank you very much.